I recently learned about some aspects of the plant world I hadn't considered before, and I wanted to share what I've discovered and explore this issue with you. I found this topic both eye-opening and thought-provoking: the racist history of houseplants. I've always been a huge plant lover, and you know me, I'm always eager to learn more about them, but I must admit, I'm a bit nervous. As a white woman, I want to raise awareness without being offensive or overstepping. I hope to share this with you in a way that is both informative and respectful, so let's explore this together. I think it's important to look at the history of houseplants in a bigger picture of things like colonialism, racism, and cultural erasure. Plants might seem like innocent, neutral parts of nature, but they're actually tied up in some pretty heavy historical power dynamics. By understanding the history of houseplants, we can recognize how seemingly irrelevant hobbies and everyday objects are connected to a larger social and cultural dynamic. I came across a TikTok by Paige Talon, a creator in the plant community, who calls attention to and highlights the problematic aspects of the plant hobby. For instance, the Croton mammy.
You'll be surprised to learn some of the racist roots behind some of these plant names. Today, we're talking about the Croton mammy. This beautiful plant is called a Codeum variegatum mammy, and while very beautiful, it is quite controversial. If you think I'm lying, what is a mammy? A mammy is a racist stereotype that stems back to racist antebellum South. The mammy, as is told, is traditionally a darker complected, heavier set woman that takes pride in taking care of her white family's children. Above all their needs, the children came first. And now the idea behind it was that because she is darker complected and that she is heavier set, she is unattractive and she has nothing better to do but to take care of other people's children. This stereotype is extremely dangerous. It holds Black women to the standard of always being matronly, always being the caretaker, always being nurturing, and always putting herself to the side. Not okay. Oh, man. Okay, Paige, what does this have to do with the plant? If you look at the color of the plant itself, it has a beautiful mixture of greens, the yellows, and the reds. Now, let's think about something that does have these colors. Oh, my second guesstimate is the growth pattern of this plant. You will see that it is almost synonymous to the fibers of a Black woman's hair. The mammy character often did wear a head wrap. What's under the head wrap was typically a lush, full head of hair. Should the name of this plant stay as is, or should it change?
My jaw honestly dropped when I found this out. How is this not more common knowledge? Another more direct example would be the Indian names for plants, which have been used in various species without acknowledgement of the actual indigenous people or cultures the term is trying to reference. Terms like Indian strawberry, Indian corn, or Indian tobacco were often used during colonial times as catch-all terms to label plants associated with the Americas or the Indian subcontinent. But this term is problematic because it erases the distinct cultures and people these plants are connected to. In many cases, this naming practice was a form of European colonial appropriation, stripping the plants of their natural identities and associating them with the generalized Indian identity, often oversimplifying or misrepresenting the true complexity of the cultures they were trying to label. This was shocking to me, and it made me realize how much of our beloved hobby is intertwined with the painful past. I had no idea that the world of houseplants could be so closely tied to racism, discrimination, and shame. It has absolutely impacted how I view this hobby. Paige's series, Black Women Pioneered More Than You Realize, also introduced me to incredible Black women whose contributions to botany have often been overshadowed. For example, Dr. Marie Clark Taylor was the first American woman to earn a PhD in botany and was head of the botany department at Howard University from 1947 to 1976. Her work has significantly influenced our understanding of grow lights today, and I had no idea. After learning about these from Paige's videos, I immediately researched what other parts of the botanical hobby may have been rooted in racism. Another aspect of this botanical history is the colonial practice of renaming plants. Many of the plants we grow in our homes have complex histories that trace back to the colonial period when European powers extracted resources from indigenous lands and enslaved people. These plants were often taken from their native lands, renamed, and stripped of their original cultural meanings. The plants we grow today could still carry with them the scars of this violence, whether through their names, their origins, or how they were removed and transported for European consumption. So essentially, they gave these plants a whole new identity, completely wiping away the culture and history they came from. It's kind of like putting a fresh coat of paint on something with a complicated past and pretending it never existed before. A powerful and honest illustration of this reflects on the time when nutmeg was valued more than gold. This image shows a nutmeg forest where the roots are heads of the fallen indigenous people slain so that the nutmeg could be claimed. When plants were renamed by colonizers, it was a form of erasure. The indigenous people who had lived with these plants for centuries, using them for food, medicine, or spiritual practices, were excluded from the narrative. While some argue that indigenous names still exist among plant species, the issue lies in who has the power to decide these names. In a video titled In Conversation, Science, Racism, and Linnaeus by the channel Plants and Culture on YouTube, this topic is explored further. It's not just about the existence of indigenous names, but about the power dynamics involved in the process of naming these plants. Recognizing this helps us see how power dynamics, often involving racism and cultural appropriation, shaped the world that we live in today. The act of naming is inherently a power exercise. I highly recommend checking out this video by Plants and Culture. It was really informative and also entertaining. You can tell they are really passionate about this topic and they explained it so well, so definitely please go check them out. How many of us have ever considered the history of a plant's name when we add it to our collection? Interestingly, in July 2024, the International Botanical Congress in Madrid voted to change over 200 plant species names that contain the word Kafra, a derogatory term for Black people. The new names will use variations of Afra to honor Africa. That just happened last year, 2024. This change is unprecedented. The first time plant names have ever been changed due to potential harm to a culture. Ever. The first time. Apparently, the scientific community has often resisted changing well-established names for plants or animals. Who knows why? There's been a tendency to uphold tradition or historical accuracy, even when that history is problematic. Changing a name in the botanical world has always been seen as a disruption to this established framework, and the conversations about race, colonialism, and cultural harm were not a significant part of the scientific dialogue until recently. This highlights the ongoing challenges in addressing the racist roots of plant names. While it's crucial to acknowledge these issues, it's equally important to celebrate the contributions of Black individuals and Indigenous people to botany. For instance, Tanisha Williams, the founder of Black Botanists Week, promotes diversity in botany and environmental fields. Williams has brought attention to the lack of diversity in botany and has worked to create more inclusive spaces within both the academic and hobbyist plant worlds. Her efforts encourage more Black people to see themselves as part of the plant science community and to contribute their unique perspectives to the field. By highlighting these stories, we can inspire positive change and encourage others to continue their education. It's about uncovering hidden stories, celebrating diversity, and making the world of plants more inclusive for everyone. Paige Talon is also a great example of this, and everyone should follow her. Her videos are both informative and entertaining and are the reason for my reflection on this topic. As we each engage in our beloved plant hobby, let's take a moment to reflect on its history and the people who have shaped it. It's not about assigning blame, but about learning from the past to build a more inclusive future. This doesn't mean rejecting the plants we love, but rather expanding our understanding of their full history and honoring the people whose contributions have been overlooked or erased, and rethinking how we engage with these plants moving forward. By acknowledging the contributions of underrepresented communities, we can honor them and ensure their stories are not forgotten. This means recognizing the very real contributions of Black botanists, Indigenous plant stewards, and others who have long been sidelined in the world of science and horticulture. It's about lifting up diverse voices and ensuring that the plant community is not only a space of enjoyment and beauty, but also one of equity, representation, and acknowledgement. For those interested in diving deeper, I listed the articles and videos in the description box that I referenced for this video. Thank you so much for being here. This is an ongoing conversation, and I want to continue to learn alongside you all, so please share your thoughts with me. Anything I may have missed, your takeaways, anything I should know, or information I may have gotten incorrect. I want to continue to learn and am always open to feedback and conversation. By shedding light on these parts of the plant world, we can continue to evolve as a community, one that values diversity, inclusivity, and mutual respect. So let's continue to learn, grow, and make our plant community a welcoming space for all. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you next time.